Welcome. Welcome to all who have come to this session. You could please join us and find a seat. This breakout session is entitled Interreligious Cooperation, Religious Freedom, and Social Stability. My name is Shon Hopkin. I'll be moderating this session. I am a professor of religious education here at Brigham Young University with experience in interfaith dialogue in various settings, and it is my true honor and privilege to be able to moderate this session with our distinguished participants. I will just mention their names briefly now, give a brief introduction, and then I'll stand up and give a brief introduction to each speaker before they present. The plan for this session, as I believe with other sessions, are 12 to 15-minute presentations. We will take each of those in order, and then there will be 10 to 15 minutes for your questions. So if I could invite you to be considering questions to ask the panelists and participants at the end of the three presentations. I'm privileged to be here with Yahya Al-Btoush, Grand Mufti of the Jordanian Armed Forces, Richard Babao, Assistant Minister of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Manila, and Father Nabil Haddad, Founder and Director of the Jordanian Interfaith Coexistence Research Center. I will briefly introduce right now Yahya Al-Btoush, the Grand Mufti, and refer you to the brief biographical sketch found on page 20 of your program. Dr. Yahya Bashir Al-Ahtamin Al-Btoush, Major General and Grand Mufti of the Jordanian Armed Forces, the second most important religious leader in Jordan after the Grand Mufti of Jordan. And we'll introduce him now and then turn the time over to Grand Mufti Al-Btoush.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
In the name of God. This is the greeting of Islam, and that's mean I'm giving you peace and respect. And having a smile in your face is a blessing to other people. So I'm gonna smile at your face to let you know that I'm committed to give the smile because it's from God. Prophet Muhammad said, if you smile in your brother's face, you're receiving a blessing. I'm deeply grateful for BYU University and for their legal department and everybody who volunteered to serve to make this thing happen, and for this session to be available to everybody. We're very grateful when we came from Jordan to be here among you. And we're hoping that will continue and will come again and again and have the opportunity to be with you. This is Amman message. I came to you to explain it to you and to show religion tolerance. Jordan has an ancient history due to unique location, and as you could read here, you could learn more about it. I'm gonna try to take less time, so if you could read. Jordan is the cradle of history, and he's the place where all the Abrahamic religion started. In Jordan, we are very proud of the Hashemite leadership. It's coming from as a descendants of Muhammad. Our king is a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, and has the Islamic ideology, the pure Islamic ideology that's explain Islam in the right way. This is the goals of Amman message. Be against terrorism and violence, and all the other 5 points you saw in front of you. Amman message, it's the thoughts of Islamic belief in combating terrorism, especially in 2004 when we established this message. Whereas 500 scholars, Islamic scholars, came together worldwide and wrote it, and they still going. Islam mean to have a peace and to have established knowledge of what God wants you to do. In Madaba, in Madaba, city of Jordan, there is a city called the City of Christ. It's the name of the mosque. My name is John, and my mom's name is Mary, and we love all the prophets, and we believe in them. This is the Jesus Christ mosque in Madaba city. From Quran I will recite, as you see here, He has chosen you, Muhammad. It's from the Quran. It's from Quran, and this is something important to us because showing all the prophets are equal to all of everybody. Islam religion based on forgiveness and mercy. We need mercy among everybody, so we could have control over spiritual things and spiritual needs. God told us in Quran, if you be merciful on people on earth, God will be merciful on you. Islam focus on peace. We love peace. We want to make peace. And this blessed meeting is as a fruit for peace around the world, even in war stage. In Quran, it explained to us if the enemy wants to give up and doesn't want to fight, you just leave them alone. The relationship between people in Islam is about peace and about building connections. And also this verse in front of you, that's telling us like the relationship with non-Muslim has to be in peace. Father Nabil Haddad came with me, and we both represent the same thing. As a Muslim and as a Christian, we are the same. And God told us again that God appreciates humans and give them dignity. What's important about a human being that God made a human with His Spirit. So it's clear that we are part of the Spirit of God. So all people are equal in front of God. We all equal in God's eyes. Islam believes strongly in diversity. And this verse telling us that God made them diverse. And God can make them the same nation, but He allowed it to be there. And the other verse that religion doesn't get pushed on anybody. I believe that you have your religion and I have mine. People are equal in God's eyes. If you showing good deeds, that means you are the best in God's eyes. This is an important structure in our religion. This is a cornerstone in our religion. That God made us male and female, and He allowed us as a nations to know each other. And the closest person to God is the one who got closer to God. Another speech I want to mention about Muhammad, that we all God's children. Uh, Islam, as you could read in front of you, that prohibit the killing of of any souls of kids, women, men, and old people. This is the this is what we've been told. This is what we've been told in Islam. Like, we should not kill women, kill kids, cut a tree. So this is the doctrines of Islam that's been given to us. So this is a relationship that we took it to international stands in peace and in war. Islam encouraged to keeping the agreements, because we've been told to obey the commandments of God. So after you give a word to somebody, so you are confirm it with somebody, so God is a witness that you did that. So you have to respect it. You have to make sure that you honest with everybody. As we gather today to study about and to talk about God's law, and this is some pictures in Jordan to show coexistence. This is Afghanis. This is King Abdullah talking to Afghanis, Afghanis leader. This is the Jordanian forces. Jordanian forces in United Nations in Afghanistan trying to reach for people and giving aid to the people. Here we could see the coexistence.
Father Haddad, my friend here, always with us. Director of in Jordan Army, always beside me.
And also the Sharia law director, always with me too, and with Mr. Haddad.
King Abdullah Mosque and Chair in Amman, capital of Jordan.
Showing like the connection. This is a proof of coexistence. One of the conferences talking about coexistence in Jordan.
Director of JAF Jordanian. هذا هو رئيس أركان القوات المسلحة.
This is the head of Jordanian army, and they were receiving Afghanis to try to explain and explore them to coexistence concept that we have in Jordan.
Thank you for listening. أشكر مرة أخرى.
I'm very grateful again for this opportunity for BYU University and for this opportunity to be here with you. I don't want to be greedy and take a lot of time. I look forward to see you again. Thank you again.
Our thanks to the Grand Mufti Al-Btoush. It's now my pleasure to introduce Father Richard Babao, Assistant Minister from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Manila, and I will point you to his short biography. On page 23, Father Richard Babao grew up surrounded by the Islamic culture in central Mindanao, which instilled within him an interest in interfaith relations. And then the final sentence of it leads to today. In 2009, he was sent to study ecumenism and interreligious dialogue at the Angelicum University in Rome. This has become part of his ministry and life. We look forward to hearing from Father Richard Babao. Thank you.
Becoming acquainted with other people and other culture is always good for us. It makes us grow. And why does this happen? It is because if we isolate ourselves, we have only what we have. We cannot develop culturally. But if we seek out other people, other cultures, other ways of thinking, other religions, we go out of ourselves and start that most beautiful adventure, which is called dialogue. Dialogue is very important for our maturity because in confronting another person, confronting other cultures, and also confronting other religions in the right way, we grow, we develop, and mature. Dialogue is what creates peace. It is impossible for peace to exist without dialogue. This is what Pope Francis said in August 21st of 2013 to the students and teachers from the Seibu Gakuen Bunri Junior High School of Saitama, Tokyo, Japan, when they visited him at the Vatican. At our age, it seems that it is not only sensible, but also really imperative for us to dialogue. If my memory serves me right, it was not like these decades ago, at least from a Filipino Catholic point of view. I was a child of the 70s just when the teachings of the Second Vatican Council, or Vatican II, were slowly being disseminated to the expectedly resisting Catholics. Growing up in a Catholic school environment all my life, I was assured that I was protected from the teachings of Protestants, other Christian churches and ecclesial communities, and even Islam that were present in the city where I grew up. I had a normal childhood. What I was not aware of was the interreligious consciousness that was slowly developing in me. Yet with it goes my prejudices and biases, because I do not really know them. What we had were simply hearsays and false impressions that unfortunately we have grown to believe. When I entered the seminary, I realized that I had that hunger to discover and learn more about peace process that we have long been yearning for, first only in Mindanao, then later on in the Philippines and the world. All my writings in the seminary and after that were about Catholic relations with the Muslims. Namely, in philosophy, I wrote about Tilik's faith and ultimate concern in the light of terrorism activities of Muslims in Mindanao. In theology, the spirituality of dialogue, its dimensions towards a new era of Christian-Muslim relations. And in my licentiate in Rome, I wrote Understanding Islamization. During those years of discovering, learning, reflecting, and meeting people, I realized I was ignorant about dialogue and relations with people of other religions. Even the Orthodox Church, the closest to the heart of the Catholic Church, was foreign to me. The first international conference I attended alone was the 45th International Ecumenical Seminar in Strasbourg, France in July of 2011. At the registration, I learned that with horror, that with about 80 participants, only 5 were Catholics. What's more, after writing my name, a Lutheran pastor from New York good-humoredly remarked, "Let us take care of this Catholic." Even when I knew he was teasing, I really felt a chill down my spine. With almost 2 years studying ecumenism and interreligious dialogue, I thought I was already free of prejudices, specifically with Protestants. Yet, that disturbing feeling was telling me otherwise. My judgments are still present. After less than a day of being with the Lutherans, I said to myself, "Oh, they are good people too." The experience allowed me to challenge my childhood understanding of who the Protestants really are. I grew up in the time where the church was shielding her members from learning non-Catholic interpretations and teachings. I understand that. The incident, however, changed my way of looking at people and their faith. When I started teaching ecumenism with interreligious dialogue at the San Carlos Seminary in Makati, Philippines, in 2013, I made it a point not to focus only on lectures and ideas. I made sure the seminarians meet people of other faiths and other Christians, not only Catholics. In that way, they see a real person whenever they think of a Muslim, a Lutheran, a Buddhist, or a Mormon, or a person different from them. The Roman Catholic Church through Vatican II was very clear with her teaching on people of other religions when she said, "The Catholic Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in these religions. She regards with sincere reverence those ways of conduct and of life, those precepts and teachings, which, though differing in many aspects from the one she holds and sets forth, nonetheless often reflect a ray of that truth which enlightens all men." I was under the Oblates of Mary Immaculate missionaries for my primary and grade schools. Now, I slowly understand why when we study religion, my Muslim classmates would move to another classroom for their instruction in Islam. We were so impressed because they can write in Arabic. In high school, I was with the Marist brothers, and they had always encouraged the Muslims to pray after we pray, in school, in the school assembly, and in the classrooms, giving us the opportunity to learn and respect each other's faith, practices, and traditions. In fact, even if we teased them with food during their fasting, it was no issue. No one became furious because of it. This is the reason why it confused me, knowing that it was so peaceful then in the classroom, and yet it was not automatically carried over in the community. There were kidnapping, extortion, killings, and bombings in many areas in Mindanao. Where was the peace in the classroom? Where was the respect that we genuinely shared? Were they limited only to the boundaries of the schools? Admittedly, the response of many in the Catholic world to the new teachings, specifically in ecumenism and interfaith dialogue, was not at all enthusiastic. Celebrating 50 years of Vatican II, Mark Colonel of Washington Times said, "Not everyone in the pews received the teachings of the Vatican II in the same way. Many Catholics, particularly in the United States and Europe, took a much dimmer view of Rome's claims to central authority, leaving some lay members and their children confused." George Weigel of the National Review, on the other hand, said, "The truths that Vatican II taught remained bitterly contested in the 15 years immediately following the Council. The Council was one dramatic event in much longer moment in Catholic history, a moment that stretches over than a century and a quarter, a moment in which the Church underwent a deep and difficult process of reform, a moment in which the curtain slowly fell on the form of Catholicism that was born in the 16th century Counter-Reformation, and the curtain slowly rose on the Catholicism of the third millennium, the Catholicism of what John Paul II and Benedict XVI have called the new evangelization. That is just a glimpse of the first 50 years of reform in the Catholic Church. Now I realize how much blessed we had been because of the Oblates and the Marist brothers. They embraced right away the teachings of Vatican II and tried as much as they can to incorporate them in our school system. Still, it was not only in that part of the Philippines that was responding. The Archdiocese of Manila was also updated in integrating the new teaching to the people. Jaime Cardinal Sin, the then Archbishop of Manila, was committed to dialogue with the Protestants, Muslims, and people of other faiths, and invited them in his palace. It was during this time that the Ministry for Ecumenical Interfaith Affairs of the Archdiocese was formed. In 1999, he invited in his residence the president of the Lutheran Church in the Philippines to celebrate the first anniversary of the signing of the agreement on justification between the Vatican and the Lutheran World Federation. According to the same report, he once allowed his Muslim visitors to pray in the palace when they ask permission to leave, so they can do their fourth prayer for the day. The cardinal also was the first bishop of Manila to send a priest to Rome to study ecumenism and interreligious dialogue. Gaudentia Cardinal Rosales, having been assigned in a diocese in northern Mindanao and had a first-hand experience with the Muslims, continued to support dialogue with other faiths. In 2009, he sent me to Rome to study ecumenism and interreligious dialogue. Today, we continue their legacy of dialogue. The ministry continues to do its mission with the Catholic Bishops' Conference in the Philippines in connecting with Christian leaders and leaders of other faiths. In 2012, His Eminence Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle was elevated to the College of Cardinals. That started the tradition of breakfast with the Cardinal, where we invite religious leaders in and out of the metropolis to have a chance to engage with the Archbishop of Manila. It became an annual event now coinciding with the World Interfaith Harmony Week, celebrated every first week of February, adopting the General Assembly Resolution 65-5 of the United Nations. In 2013, the Uni-Harmony Partners Manila with the Religions for Peace and the Social Dialogue Movement stressed the commitment with the message, "We commit ourselves to respect the dignity of every man and woman as a creature of God. We commit ourselves to uphold the right of each person to express his or her belief in accordance with the tenets and traditions of their faiths. We commit ourselves to experience and promote interfaith harmony as fruit of our faith and belief in the love of God and love of neighbor and the love of the common good. We commit ourselves to love and serve God and neighbor." We have continued since then the Breakfast with the Cardinal series in initiating private meetings of religious leaders meaning to meet him and dialogue with him. In 2013, Cardinal Tagle met with the members of the Turkish foundation, Pacific Dialogue Foundation Incorporated, the Buddhists of Fuguang Shan Mabuhay Temple in Manila, and the Buddhist Risho Kosekai of Japan. The year after, he welcomed at the Residencia de Arzobispo the ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran and company. The breakfast introduced us with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints this year, that gave our office the chance to engage with them, meet them in the flesh, and not simply stare on them when they get to see them walking by twos in the streets of Manila. I also had a chance to see the movie Meet the Mormons with my parishioners. For many of them, it was their first time to meet the Mormons without skepticism, judgment, and maybe apprehension. The Archbishop continued to connect with the dialogue groups as he encouraged us to participate in the International Ecumenical Seminar in Strasbourg, the General Assembly of Asian Conference of Religions for Peace in South Korea, and the first Interfaith Dialogue on Religious Leaders for Peace in ASEAN Community in Thailand. With the highly delicate and elusive Bangsamoro Basic Law of Mindanao, the CBCP and MAFA do not tire of supporting the Filipino people in finding ways to benefit Filipinos in the affected areas of the BBL. In fact, a conference on interreligious dialogue with the theme, Multi-Religious Leaders, Action and Solidarity for Peace in Mindanao, was held last September 21st in Manila. Here, the religious leaders gathered to express their solidarity and continuing advocacy for the peace of Mindanao and the whole country. It was a way of sending the message to the government about the urgency of passing the BBL and the need for prudence in the final drafting of its substance into law. Likewise, it hoped to convey the message to the Filipino people of various faith traditions that religions have key role in promoting peace. In the same conference, the Interreligious Council of the Philippines, that will continue to implement dialogue of action for peace and justice, was launched. Many times we only see what is happening in the surface, the events that transpire in the city, and we do not realize the struggle is really inside even our families. A devout Muslim friend of mine who is married to a Catholic shared how he struggled with the questions of her young daughter. It is already a practice in the home that they pray, saying first the Muslim prayer being led by the father, and that the child recites her Catholic prayer. But one time, after praying the Muslim prayer led by him, her daughter said, "Now let us pray the Catholic prayer together." He told her he cannot do it, and her daughter asked, "Why can't you not pray the Catholic prayer with me when I prayed the Muslim prayer with you?" His daughter cried until she was tired and went to sleep. He said that it was the most painful moment of his life, seeing his daughter grieve because he cannot explain why they cannot pray together. We do not really know what is ahead of us. We do not know if there is a ray of hope anytime soon. Yet forces from many areas, even individuals, propel people to find ways to achieve harmony and peace. St. John Paul II reminded us that when he issued the document Dialogue and Proclamation in May of 1991, it must be remembered that the Church's commitment to dialogue is not dependent on success in achieving mutual understanding and enrichment. Rather, it flows from God's initiative in entering into a dialogue with humankind and from the example of Jesus Christ, whose life, death, and resurrection gave to that dialogue its ultimate expression. What is important is this chain of ecumenical and interfaith activities pushed by people of various faith groups who tirelessly work for peace. When we are able to stop and listen, think and reflect, apologize and forgive, it means we believe we are still able to love. When we are triggered, angered, and moved to act by people who hurt others, it means we do care. When we feel mercy and compassion for the other, it means we still experience the presence of God in our midst. It means we silently listen to Him. Because He is present in the midst of all this pain and struggles, we can hope. We know things will be better in God's own time. I believe Silver Birch sums it up with these words: "The greed of your world must be replaced by love, because love is an expression of the Spirit. Love has many aspects: compassion, service, friendship, cooperation. You are all parts of one another, whatever you are, whoever you are, and wherever you may be. There is hope because God unceasingly works in us."
Our gratitude to Father Richard Babao for that excellent presentation. Thank you. We will next be privileged to hear from Father Nabil Haddad, founder and director of the Jordanian Interfaith Coexistence Research Center. I will point you to his brief biographical sketch on page 20 of your program. As a personal note, I was privileged to engage in some interfaith dialogue with the Grand Mufti and with Father Haddad yesterday, and deeply respect their compassion, humanity, and true commitment to interfaith dialogue. I also, as an English speaker who speaks just a little bit of Arabic, look forward to Father Haddad's presentation, I believe in English, but he will intersperse it, if yesterday is an indication, from time to time with the beautiful Arabic word yani, the useful word that in other words, and I'll look forward to that and wanted to translate that for you in advance. We'll turn the time to Father Haddad now.
Thank you, Shon, and Assalamu alaikum. So, I'm so honored and pleased to be here today at BYU and us. I was asked to speak about religion, cultural understanding, and peaceful coexistence. In this session, with the theme of interreligious cooperation, religious freedom, and social stability. Two speakers presented their remarks in this session before me. One is the Grand Mufti of the Jordan Armed Forces and my colleague from the Philippines. And both they refer to harmony. Let me start by saying that Harmony Week initiative was a Jordanian initiative. It was made in Jordan, where I come from. And indeed, I want to tell my father, my colleague, the father from the Philippines, that last year I was with His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan as a member of as a judge of the member of the committee of the Royal Prize, and we gave an award to one of the participants who was from the Philippines. This is the setting where I come from. I come from the Holy Land of Jordan, talking about cooperation between religions and mainly Muslims and Christians. To me and to any Jordanian is not a theory. It's not a newborn issue. In one of my lectures in Iowa in 2007, a young American student asked me, he said, "Father Haddad, when did you become a Christian?" And I told him, "Son, I have been a Christian only 2,000 years. I have been a Christian since the day of Pentecost." And that continued and continued until the 7th century, when we started a new march of interfaith cooperation and coexistence in the land, in the Holy Land of Jordan, when Islam started its mission. So I have been living with my Mufti for the past 1,400 years, presenting an example, a practical one, not theoretical, practical one, and the best proof that this could be done is the model of coexistence in my country. It takes two parts of the equation. You need two good parties. You need a good Muslim and you need a good Christian. And when we say good Muslim, I am saying that every Muslim is called to be a good Muslim, as the Christian is called to be a good Christian. In Jordan, we understand this equation. I come to you from Jordan, from a region where we saw that religion became the mask for all the agendas of terrorism. I come to you not to talk about religious freedom, although I was a member of the Royal Commission in Jordan on human rights. When speaking about human rights in that region was something new, even many people were very skeptic to see a Catholic a Melkite Catholic, an Eastern Arab Catholic, being a member on a commission that talks about human rights. Everybody thought it was a very Western invention, and that has nothing to do with religion. I come to you from a region where this conversation about religious freedom is meaningless, while there is so much need and so much cry for safety and security of every individual, every citizen. I come to you from a region where we found that extremism became the industry, and this industry, unfortunately, is spreading. We have seen that the social instability in our region was behind what was called the Arab Spring. In the absence of social justice, in the absence of democracy, in the absence of human rights, in the absence of religious freedom, we saw that people went out to the streets against dictatorships, and the substitute for that was what you have seen and what you see in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, in Libya, and in other parts of that region. I come to you bringing to you a Jordanian model, an oasis of tranquility and peaceful coexistence, where Muslims and Christians learn the hard lesson. And they believed that their stable society will never be maintained unless they maintain the concept of a civil state. And a civil state does not mean that the Muslims in my country are writing on the gates and the doors of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan for Muslims only. This is not the case of Jordan. This is not the case in a city of Amman which is called the city of brotherly love. And by the way, Amman is the original Philadelphia, not in Pennsylvania. Yani, the Americans, they tried to do that, but it didn't work. Now, talking about this interfaith coexistence and interfaith cooperation, apparently is facing challenges. Number one is the mentality of the minority. This is the most dangerous and indeed a very suicidal in any society, to see that the minority lives in a ghetto. I come from Jordan, where Christians are only by number less than 4%. But I am not a minority. I am a descendant of the great Arab Christian tribes that built the famous city of Petra. So we have a legacy of the land, of the geography, of the history, and of Christianity. And with such a concept, the Christians, they refuse to live in isolation or to be isolated. The other challenge is the arrogance of the majority. In any society, it is very suicidal to have this behavioral problem when a majority would think that they can eliminate every other element of their society. When we talk about a civil society that nourishes religious freedom, that nourishes peaceful coexistence and cultural understanding, we have to remember that we must not fail in determining the identity or building an identity of the individual or societal identity or even national identity, which is facilitated by the geography, by the language, by the economy of the exchange of interests. All that could fail if these two challenges, the arrogance of the majority and the illusion of the minority that they can get a protection from an outside power. In Jordan, I always believed that as a small community, no one protects me but me and the Sheikh. No one protects me except me and my neighbor. He is called upon. He has a vocation in his Islam to protect me and even more, to respect me. In my very case, to spoil me, not only to respect me. And in my Christianity, in my Christianity, I learned from my Lord Jesus Christ. In my church, I learned to love my neighbor, but in my case, that neighbor is this Muslim. Another problem we have in our region is the weakness of what I call the liberal Christian, Muslim, religious, and scholar intelligentsia. They are not able to play a role in finding a good experience that would help to build an identity. We believe that our identity in the region and in other parts of the world must help through its composition to respect pluralism and diversity. And what we see also, another problem in that regard, is the fragile case, the fragile state of social and economic justice. Dear friends, when I present Jordan to you as a practical application of interfaith cooperation and coexistence, I remember that it is timely to highlight the initiatives that we have taken in Jordan. I was honored to establish the first non-government organization, an interfaith-based organization. I did that with my colleague, the former Grand Mufti and the Chief Justice and the Special Advisor on Islamic Affairs to His Majesty, the late Sheikh Izzuddin Al-Khatib Al-Tamimi, who was tasked with organizing a great work of issuing a document that is called the Amman Message, which His Eminence presented to you earlier. The Amman Message is a document that talks about Islam. It was launched in November 2004. I was the first to take that document and present it, take it out of Jordan and present it to the world. Up until today, I have disseminated 80,000 copies to different institutions, individuals, and decision makers. And the first copy, which I carried, I gave to the former U.S. permanent representative to in the United Nations in the Security Council. And I remember I told him, this is the best prescription for an interfaith cooperation between Muslims and non-Muslims, in my case, and Christians. A prescription against extremism, against terrorism, and against hatred. With this document, ladies and gentlemen, we can nourish an alliance between followers of faith, mainly the Muslims and the Christians. Out of this document, in 2007, we in Jordan issued the second document of common word between you and us. And that was the first theologically based document between Muslims and Christians. This came after the turmoil that we saw in our region after the lecture by His Holiness, the Pope Emeritus, Pope Benedict in Regensburg in Germany. And out of the womb of this document, the Amman Message, we had the initiative of the World Interfaith Harmony Week, which was presented by my country, by my king to the United Nations, and was adopted unanimously. And every week, every first week of February, this World Interfaith Harmony Week is celebrated not only in Jordan, but in other parts of the world. When we speak about Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, as a case of religious interreligious cooperation, I emphasize the fact that at these times, at these moments, where we see hatred, where we see schism between followers of faith, I bring Jordan as a model that brings hope and brings the hope to us. Jordan needs Jordan. I need Jordan. As a Christian, I need Jordan. The Muslims, my Muslim colleagues need Jordan. Jordan needs Jordan. But believe me, we as members of the global family, we need Jordan and needs that experience. Thank you, and God bless you.
We have a few minutes for maybe one or two questions. If you choose to ask a question, please stand and wait for the microphone and then announce your name and where you are from, who you are directing the question to. I'll turn the time now to your questions, please. Would you stand and announce your name?
Brian Lucas from Australia to Father Haddad. Have you been able to bring that Jordan experience, particularly through the Melkite diaspora, to very many other countries?
Let's give the translators a moment. Tell me when we're ready. I think we're okay. Go ahead, Father Haddad.
Yes, sir. We use our not only Milkite network, but we use our Catholic network and other Christian networks in order to spread the Jordanian experience. Let me refer here to a conference that was organized in Jordan under the auspices of His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan, where it was a synod, a Christian synod, not a Catholic synod, not an Orthodox, but a Christian synod, where we received all churches in Amman, Jordan, in September 2013. Thanks to His Majesty for inviting all the religious leaders representing all Christian churches of the world. And the theme of the conference was Challenges Facing Arab Christians. At that conference, we really sent a note, a cry, a call for all Christians to work together in order to help themselves, as the world needs also to see them united in working together, especially looking at our region, at the Middle East. That call preceded the other efforts by other institutions. Now, the Jordanian experience is very important to be adopted. And when we spread that experience, we don't mean to monopolize the work of the interfaith dialogue, but in fact, what we mean is to serve peace and understanding in the whole world. As a man of the church, as a Catholic, as a Jordanian, as a director of an organization involved in the interfaith work, I tell you that we welcome every readiness on your part, on everybody's part, that we work together. And we welcome all of you to come to Jordan and maybe see that experience for yourselves. I don't think we can get a better message about the Jordanian experience better than traveling together, the Mufti of the Jordan Armed Forces and myself, to say that this experience is needed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Father Haddad. We are to the end of our time. I am interested in allowing one more question, please. If you'll wait for the microphone.
Thank you. Palbinder Shergill from Canada. This is a question for Grand Mufti as well as for Father Haddad. You had referenced earlier that you felt that you live in a region where religion has been used as a mask for terrorism. And we heard a similar sentiment expressed yesterday by the Nigerian delegation. And I'm wondering whether you think that there's anything that religious communities can do in order to counteract that.
Program, 303 program, 303 program, 303 program.
Use of religion has to be very, very clear, because if you use religion in a bad way, you could kill humanity with religion. Religion came from God. And we all have to understand that this religion came for the happiness of the human being. So if we misunderstand the religion, we killed the religion and we killed the human. A lot of people who misused religion, they attacked the human beings. Heavenly Father, God, gave him the religion, this religion, Islam religion, to be happy in this life. Life is short, then why we need to kill each other using of religion? Unfortunately, a lot of people around this world using religion in different avenue for their own benefits. So they cover themselves with religion and they think they are religious leader, but in fact they are businessmen. They're not a leader, they're not a religious leader. They're seeking their own benefit. So the thing that kills us first is being ignorant about your religion. If we don't go back to the scholars, unfortunately, those who understand the religion and know it, we as a Muslim, if you're talking about Islam only, we have a big problem. Who doesn't understand the religion, he's killing himself and killing others. And if he understood half of the religion, still killing people. In our religion, unfortunately, people left scholar and they're not trying to reach knowledge from them. They are the people who are teaching the religion, who explaining to them that terrorist act and trying to judge people is not coming from Islam. And a lot of groups using that to cover their acts by using religion. And don't forget, there is a big trade for weapons around the world. And by selling weapons, by using drugs, by using oil, the war of oil, especially in the Middle East. And there are mega projects and interfering with a lot of nations to get benefits from regional areas or from other countries around the world. And religion is victim, unfortunately, and youth is a victim in this issue. I hope there will be a lot of worldwide effort and from people around the world to help us to preach Islam in the right way. So as we're having this sitting today, where we have the chance to sit and be here together, I'm very pleased to have Father Haddad with me, to have the chance to talk to him and to be able to communicate. So we have follow men, both of us, and if we could gather them together and let them talk to each other and to learn from each other. I'm surprised how human beings killing each other and humanity damaging their future. And we're building our house to live in it. So how come we're damaging the house that we built it together? There is heaven waiting people, and there is hell waiting people. Those who made peace, they are going to go to heaven, and those who made wars, they're going to go to hell. I think that's my short answer, and I hope it's enough.
Is it clear? Is it understood or not? Thank you very much. Any other question? I am ready.
Thank you so much. I hope Father Haddad will forgive me for the sake of time if we conclude now. We've run over, but I'm so grateful for those questions that came, for the answers that were so eloquently placed, and for those excellent presentations. What a beautiful experience of interfaith dialogue and cooperation has been modeled for each of us and for our communities today. Thank you.